Welcome to Eye of the Storm, our St. John's video series sponsored by Noble.
Dexter Henry here, joined by the great St. John's beat reporter for the New York Post, the one and only Zach Braziller. Zach, how's it going?
Hey, I'm ready for the season. You know, the previews are almost all done. Ball tips off, Monday night. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. Zach has been busy, and he knows this is a really exciting season because St. John's Red Storm, they're about to embark on one of their most anticipated seasons in recent memory. So what we're going to do here is we're going to preview this season for the Johnnies. I know you're excited about this Johnnies team. There's a lot that people think they can do this year. But, Zach, let's start by looking at the St. John's squad. How would you describe the look of this roster heading into the season? What do you see as the biggest changes or upgrades from last year?
They're much more athletic. Last year, Pitino gets the job, and they has to remake the whole team. 12 new players, and they got what they got. And, the team really got better as the year went on. I thought by March, they were one of the better teams in the country. Really should have been an NCAA tournament team, didn't quite have the resume. This team is more athletic. Look, they bring back three guys who are going to start, Zuby Ejiofor, R.J. Luis, and Simeon Wilcher. They go out in the portal. They get Kadary Richmond from Seton Hall. They bring in 6-foot guard Davon Smith, who's a terrific athlete. He's a triple-double threat. And then they bring in Aaron Scott from North Texas. He's a 6'8" guy. He shoots threes. He can defend basically every position on the floor. Those are really the top six. They're going to be able to play Pitino's pressing style, to me, much better. They're going to get up and down. You go to practice, the pace is maybe not night and day to last year, but it's definitely much faster. I think they're going to play, they're going to really get up and down the court. So I think athleticism is a big upgrade from last year. And I think part of it is the guys who are back. They're two sophomores, two juniors who have been through it. They know what Pitino expects. They know how he wants to play, and I think that's going to be a big thing as well.
Yeah, so the experience is going to be a huge factor for the Johnnies in year two under Rick Pitino. And with year two under Rick Pitino, as I said before, expectations, Zach, they are high. What impact do you think Pitino's made on this team's mentality and the style of play this offseason? You talked about him wanting to implement the way that he likes to play, and we've seen throughout his career. So you think we've seen that impact going here into year two?
I think you could even see it last year. That team got off to a really good start in the league. They were 4-1, and then they really hit a drought. They lost 8 of 10. People thought the season was over. Said, all right, let's get them next year, and the team got hot at the end. And I've covered this team for a decade, and usually when St. John's goes in the tank, in late January, early February, you say, forget it, put the balls away. We'll maybe wait, win a game in the Big East tournament. But this team got hot late. They beat, a very good Creighton team at the Garden. They won at Butler. They took advantage of a soft late schedule. Then they get to the Big East tournament semifinals. Didn't get in the tournament, but that was a team that, kind of really got it going late. And, I think so it started there. And look, he expects big things. He really likes this team. He was very disappointed they didn't get in the tournament, like a lot of St. John's fans were, like the players were. Zuby Ejiofor told me it was, remembers the day. It was incredibly sad, and it's a motivation for those guys who are back to not feel that again. They thought they deserved to be in the tournament, that they belonged, and now this year they get to prove it.
This year they get to prove it. Fans expecting it. The team expects it. We'll see what they can do. I want to stick with Coach Pitino because he's openly discussed the challenges and opportunities of NIL, name, image, and likeness. And now St. John's has approached NIL in a way that aligns with his vision and how. The question I guess I have is, how does this impact recruiting and chemistry with the vision that Coach Pitino has for NIL?
Look, St. John's has done well in the portal. Kadary Richmond, Davon Smith, two of the more highly sought-after guards out there. They have a healthy NIL. I would probably say I would say top third, maybe top fourth of the Big East. You have a billionaire booster, Mike Rapoli, who's heavily in the mix now. There are a lot of other people involved as well. And this day and age, if you don't have a healthy NIL, it's really hard to compete. And St. John's has that now. And I don't think you could say, I don't know who, if another coach was here, if you would be able to say that. A lot has changed with Rick Pitino aboard. A lot more people with deep pockets want to be a part of this program. And, look, even the guys who came back, we know how the transfer portal works now. Schools try to get kids in the portal and make promises. Sometimes they're fulfilled, sometimes they aren't. And St. John's was able to keep some really talented guys like Wilcher, like Luis, like Ejiofor. Like, you know, that's as much of a challenge in this day and age as even getting transfers, is keeping your good players. And that, to me, I thought was so important about their offseason was the 4 guys they really, really wanted to keep, they kept. You know, I include Brady Dunlap in that as well, who's going to be, you know, a reserve for them this year. That, to me, is so huge. You need some kind of consistency and guys returning. You see it with UConn. Look, everyone wants to, you know, look at 5-star freshmen, the big transfers that switch schools, but getting guys better and keeping them in your program, to me, is so important in this day and age.
Continuity is key in all areas of sports, and we're seeing that with the Johnnies. Now, the Johnnies, they had some solid exhibition performances. Zach, what did you learn about St. John's' strengths and weaknesses from these tune-up games before the regular season?
Yeah, the Rutgers game was fascinating because Rutgers, we all know, they have the 4th-ranked recruiting class in the country. They have 2 guys who people think are one-and-done top 5 picks in Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. And that first half, Pitino kind of mixed and matched. He had Kadary Richmond on the bench for a while. He had Ejiofor on the bench for a little bit. And St. John started well, then kind of had a pretty big struggle there at the end of the first half. And then the second half, he played to win. He basically just played the 6 guys I mentioned. And they came back from down 13, beat Rutgers going away. And I was really impressed with a few things. Number one, how they took a punch. It's an exhibition. But it was both teams kind of, especially in the second half, treated it like a real game. There was a nice crowd. It wasn't a sellout crowd. It was a nice crowd. Although Rutgers is really good at home. And they really defended. They got the ball inside. And they played really well. And in the second game against Towson, the favorite in the CAA, they were terrific defensively. They won a slugfest by 19. So, to me, there are 2 big things. This team, to me, has a chance to be terrific defensively with their athleticism, with their length, with some of the guys they can, you know, put on the perimeter with their defense, whether it's Richmond, Aaron Scott, Davon Smith. Ejiofor is a really strong rebounder and rim protector. Now, the other thing is the depth is a question mark. You know, that Rutgers game, when he really played to win, he just played 6 guys. I do think Brady Dunlap is going to help this team as a shooter off the bench. You have a freshman, Jaden Glover, a 4-star prospect who, you know, is probably going to take him some time. Then you have the 2 big guys, Vince Iwuchukwu, I'm sure I botched his name, from USC.
Sounds good to me.
And then Portuguese import Ruben Prey. Those guys, the 2 big guys, are kind of battling it out right now to be the backup center. You know, they do different things well. Prey is a little better on the perimeter, kind of has a higher basketball IQ. Vince, I'm just going to call him Vince, is stronger. He's 7'1". He can really block shots, probably a better rebounder. So they have different strengths, and so you might see them mix and match with those 2 guys for a while. But that, to me, are some of the questions, you know, the depth. Now, as we discussed, it's college basketball. You play 2, maybe 3 games a week. You don't need to play 10 guys, but they're obviously going to go deeper than 6.
Right.
I think they want to have a strong 8 to 9 man rotation. So there's some question marks with that bench. But I think their top 6 has the potential to be really, really strong.
All right, so high on their top 6 bench depth, off the bench, something to keep an eye on, folks. So we'll take a look at it there. A name you mentioned here that they got in the transfer portal, Kadary Richmond. New Yorkers will know him from Brooklyn, played at South Shore. He's been getting a ton of attention as a key player for the Red Storm after transferring from Seton Hall. What do you expect from him this season, and do you see him embracing heightened expectations now that he's playing back home here in New York City for the Red Storm?
Yeah, look, he said all the right things. It was interesting when he committed to St. John's. He visited Oklahoma. There was some talk of Illinois getting in the mix, but he decided to stay home. When he committed, he said he drew some inspiration from Jalen Brunson, and he saw just how excited New York got over the Knicks and kind of wanted to feel that. I found that interesting. Was voted a co-captain. Pitino said over and over Richmond has the complete respect of all his teammates. I'm very intrigued by his three-point shot because that's the one. If he had a better jump shot, he would be in the NBA right now. There's no question. He's 6'6". He's a terrific passer. He defends. He can play in the post as a guard. He does a lot of things well, but that shot is something that they've been working on, and we'll see. They've tried to get rid of the hitch in it and just make it a more smooth shot. no one's saying he's going to become Steph Curry, but the idea is you want to see him be able to hit a few threes a game and not hesitate to take it. If he could at least become more of a threat from three, he goes from a very good player to a great player. That's, to me, and that's what he said, a big part of transfer St. John's. He saw some of the work Rick Pitino's done with players in the past. Donovan Mitchell was one about kind of reworking their shot, and he obviously wants dreams to play in the NBA like all these guys do, and he thinks maybe if he can get that shot improved, that could happen.
All right, we'll see if that improvement comes for Kadary. We'll see if that happens this season. Now, you talked about the athleticism of St. John's, Zach, and you talked about how they can fit with that athleticism into Pitino's style of what he wants to do defensively. Offensively, what kind of style do you expect St. John's to embrace this season under Pitino? Is there a particular aspect of the offense that you think is going to be the team's hallmark when we look at them and say, hey, that's St. John's basketball offensively, this is how they play?
They're going to want to look. They're going to be if they can. Now it's part of that's defense where turnovers. They're going to be a terrific transition team. Smith is a one-man fast break. For a guy who's only 6 feet, he's a terrific rebounder. He's so quick, in transition. He's going to get a rebound. He's going to go. R.J. Lewis is terrific in transition. They have some other guys that really can finish. Simeon Wilcher, Jaden Glover. I'm looking forward to seeing him in transition. They're a team I think that's going to really try to play fast and get out in transition. Then on offense, I think you're going to see a lot of Kadary Richmond in the post. That was something he did a lot at Seton Hall, where he's so tough, he's so big and so athletic, he's tough to handle, and so teams are going to have to double him, and that's going to lead to open shots. I think a lot of this offense is going to revolve around Richmond and Smith getting into the lane, whether it's Smith's penetration, whether it's Kadary's post-up game. And that's why a lot's been made of, does this team have enough shooting? And it's a fair question. But I think one area that's going to help is you're going to have two guards that are so tough to deal with. So you're going to have to double them, or they're going to be in the paint. And I think that's going to lead to a lot of open shots. Now, they got to make those shots, whether it's Wilcher, Brady Dunlap, Aaron Scott, even Zuby Ejiofor has shown he can hit a few threes here. Hitting shots is be key, because if they can't hit shots, teams are going to pack the paint.
Right, they're going to pack the paint on them, so guys have to take those open shots that they get and make them, as you said, to make them pay if they do pack the paint. Now, we talked about defense. We know that is a staple under Rick Pitino. Just from the exhibition games you've seen, what defensive improvements have you noticed so far, and who stands out to you as a defensive leader on the squad?
Look, they are so high on Aaron Scott, because he's a guy who can guard. He can guard fours, even some fives. He can guard guards. He has that positional versatility on defense that we always talk about. Davon Smith is a guy who's going to pick up, full court. He's a really, really good on-ball defender. Kadary Richmond can kind of do a little bit of everything, and he's a really good defensive rebounder. So you could go with three-guard lineups because he's 6'6", so you could play him kind of at the three technically on defense, and he gets rebounds, and he's off to the races like Smith. So they have a lot of guys who could really defend a ton of positions. Wilcher has good size for a guard. They're going to look to push. They're going to look to turn you over. I think transition is really going to be a hallmark for this team.
All right, so getting stops on defense, getting out in transition, that could be very interesting to see what they're able to do defensively. Now, Zach mentioned depth as a possible concern for this team. But when you look at the bench, Zach, are there any players coming off the bench that you think could be difference makers that really have a chance to stand out this season and help this bench where going into conference play, let's say by then you're looking at it and saying, hey, this team might be a little bit deeper than I thought because these guys made a difference off the bench?
Well, you have Smith. He's going to be the sixth man to start, and he's more of a sixth starter than necessarily a bench player. As Pitino said, he's going to change starting lineups. It's about who finishes, doesn't who starts. But initially, Smith will be the leader of that bench unit. And like I mentioned, I think Glover's got a chance as the year goes on to be a big contributor. He's a guy who can really shoot the three. They're working with him on his defense, and I think Ruben Prey, kid from Portugal, they are high on him. He's adjusting. He's living in a new country, new people. He's getting used to playing American college basketball. So I think he's another guy. It's going to probably take him some time, but I think he could really be a factor. He runs the court like a deer. He is big. He's 6'10". I think Glover and Prey are two guys that I think might take some time, but can really carve out roles for themselves.
All right. Those will be two guys very interested to watch and see how they develop throughout the season. Now, here's the thing. Here we go. People want to know all this about St. John's. Can the Red Storm realistically challenge for the Big East title this season? We know UConn going for the three-peat. And if they can challenge for the Big East title this season, Zach, who do you see as their biggest competitors to win the conference?
I picked them third. Look, I think they have a roster that can compete with anyone. I'm sticking with UConn to win the league. I know they lost a ton. I'm not doubting Dan Hurley. I did not pick UConn to go to the Final Four, which I'm sure UConn fans are going to let me have it.
Oh, they're coming for you.
But I think UConn wins the league. I went a little with a surprise. Xavier, who I actually think is going to the Final Four. Xavier second and St. John's third. Creighton was projected higher than both those teams. I think St. John's Xavier are going to be two of the most improved teams in this league. I talked to John Rothstein about it. He from CBS, he loves St. John's and Xavier. He believes they're going to improve a ton. So, yeah, I have St. John's third. I don't think they win the league, but they can compete with anyone. So I pick St. John's third. And, maybe a little bit of higher than the league coaches. The league's coaches pick them fifth, just a hair behind Marquette at fourth. But to me, after UConn, I think all these teams are pretty close. Xavier, Creighton, St. John's, Marquette. It's going to come down to maybe a game or two for who finishes second, who finishes fifth. I think the league has got really good depth. Teams like DePaul and Georgetown, who were bottom of the barrel power conference teams last year, have improved. I don't think they're necessarily finishing the top half of the league, but they're not going to be the pushovers they were a year ago. So I don't know if the league will be quite as good, in the top two or three, but I think the depth is significantly improved.
Well, what's interesting is when you get to conference play, right, you get to those games where St. John's plays Xavier, they play Marquette. Like you said, the margin for error is so thin. Those games are going to be really, really huge and should be some fun ones to watch and for Zach to cover. Last thing for me, Zach, you know this. You've been covering this team for a decade. St. John's, they haven't made the tournament since 2019. With this roster, do you think they have what it takes, to end the drought finally?
I picked them to go to Sweet 16. I picked them to go 9-2 in the non-conference, 13-7 in the league, make the Big East tournament final, and go to the Sweet 16. They last won an NCAA tournament game in 2000. Maybe I'm a little optimistic, but here's my thought. If not now, when? They have a Hall of Fame coach. They have a very good roster. It might be a little top-heavy, but look, a backcourt of Kadary Richmond, Davon Smith, and Simeon Wiltshire to me is going to be tremendous. I think Zuby Ejiofor is going to be one of the better forwards in the league. I think Aaron Scott is going to be a glue guy and really help this team. I think they have R.J. Lewis is healthy. That's the one thing people forget. Last year, he put up solid numbers his first year at St. John's. He was dealing with shin splints all year. He was barely able to practice. Now he fixed them. He got surgery. He's remade his three-point shot. He's a guy Pitino thinks is an NBA player. He's 6'7". He does a little bit of everything. They have a chance to be very good. I really believe that. I understand if St. John's fans or people say, well, we hear this every year. I'm not disagreeing with you. St. John's is kind of a little like the Mets and the Jets, where they're the king of off-season hype and they let you down. But you know what's different?
Yeah.
They got a coach who's won everywhere he's been.
And you believe in the coach and the impact of him turning around.
He is bullish on this team. He really likes them. Last year at this time he said it a million times. He didn't know what to expect. It was a completely new team. This isn't nearly as new. We have more established guys in terms of the newcomers. I think this team is going to be good. I think they're going to be a top 20 team in the country. I ranked them number 25 in my preseason top 25. I think St. John's fans are going to have to deal with having a good team, which some of them is going to be tough for them to handle.
No, I hope they can deal with that. I hope that's the case. I hope St. John's fans out there can deal with this. But Zach, with that, I know some people are going to listen to that or see you say this and say, well, Zach is here drinking the red Kool-Aid, right? He's feeling really good about St. John's. But let's say somebody doesn't think they will do as well as maybe you said, right? What would you define as a successful season for St. John's this year? Is it the fact they have to get an NCAA tournament appearance? Is it a deep run in the NCAA tournament? Or is it something else that you would say?
I think one win in the NCAA tournament would be a successful season.
Okay, so just one win.
They haven't won a game since 2000. This is Pitino's second year, I think one win would be a great year. Finish top 4, top 5 in the league, make the tournament, win a game in the tournament would be a great year. If they ever made the second weekend, it would be a fantastic year. Look, Kadary Richmond is one of the best players in the country. There's no question about that. They have 3 projected starters back, all 3 guys who've had really good off seasons, really good preseasons that look like they're going to make a jump. You know, Smith and Scott are established guys who really fit the way they want to play. You have the bench has got question marks, but they do have guys there with potential who I don't think would shock people to see. And look, it's not me. All the prognostications are that this should be a tournament team. They just missed the preseason AP Top 25, finished just, I think, 27th. You look at the different sites. I mean, this should be a tournament team. And when you get in the tournament, anything can happen. I think the top six, like I said, I think the top six is very good. You obviously, you got to avoid injuries. Got to hope the ball bounces your way. They had a number of brutal last-second losses last year.
Yep.
Before they went on that late run. I mean, if you look at last year, and to me, this team is significantly more talented than last year's team. And last year's team really should have made the tournament. By March, they were a very good team, and they lost, heartbreakers at the end to Creighton, to Marquette, to Xavier. They had games to Providence. They had games they really could have won that they just couldn't close out. And I think with some of the guys they have come back and some of the guys they brought in, they're going to be able to finish off those games.
Oh, that is the hope for St. John's fans, the ones that actually want to win. They should want Zach to be right. That's all I'm saying. You should want Zach to be right. Or just drink the red Kool-Aid with Zach as well. You can do that as well. Zach, let me just say this personally. I like your predictions. I think they're pretty good. I don't think they're too lofty. I think they're possible. I think it's going to happen for this
team. I said the Jets were going to stink this year, and they stink, so.
Well, you say that almost every year.
Every year they stink, so.
So every year you're right. So maybe the people should believe Zach with the St. John's
Here's the beauty.
prediction.
We're going to start the games Monday night, and we're going to find out who's right and who's wrong. Look, I'm not going to deny it. We've been here in the past with this program,
right,
where you thought they were going to be good, and they've disappointed for a variety of different reasons. A lot of times, the reason they've disappointed has been the coach.
And this is a coach that you believe in.
They're not. St. John's isn't going to not win because of Rick Pitino.
Right.
That's not going to happen. Like they're not going to win 16 or 17 games because the coach, fell short or just didn't get the job done. Right. If they don't win, maybe there are injuries or guys have bad years or whatever it is, but they're not going to not win because of one of the great college basketball coaches of all time.
I don't think that is going to happen. That is Zachary Braziller. He will be doing a great job covering St. John's throughout the season. Season tips off on Monday, November 4th. Should be a fantastic season. Zach and I will be doing a lot more of these conversations around St. John's basketball, so stay tuned to New York Post Sports for more on that. Zach, appreciate you. Enjoy the season. It's about to get really busy.
You going to come to the Bahamas or what?
You didn't invite me. Are you inviting me now?
Yes.
This is an invite now?
This is an invite, yeah.
I will do that if you and Rick Pitino are in a white suit. That is the plan. How about we all wear white suits?
All right. How about this? We get Serby and you in white suits in the Bahamas.
Done.
All right. It's not like he's got football to cover. These teams stink.
This is true. One thing I know is I'll wear the white suit. I'm pretty sure Serby will wear the white suit.
If you two wear the white suit, I'll wear the white suit.
Done. There we go.
All right, let's go.
Coming to the Bahamas. It's going to be me and Zach in Bahamas covering St. John's and enjoying some good weather. We'll make that happen. Thanks, Zach. Appreciate you, man.
Anytime.